In 17 years of judging talent shows, Simon Cowell had mastered the art of maintaining professional composure under any circumstances. He'd faced shocking auditions, emotional breakdowns, and unexpected surprises without ever losing control. But when 32-year-old Victoria Matthews walked onto the Britain's Got Talent stage, holding the hand of an 8-year-old boy with unmistakably familiar dark eyes, Simon felt his carefully constructed world begin to crumble in real time. The London Palladium buzzed with its usual Saturday evening energy, but Simon couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. His security team had mentioned that someone had been trying to contact him all week through official channels, claiming to have important personal information to share. Simon received hundreds of such messages monthly, usually from attention seekers or people with delusions about their connection to him. His team filtered them all out, but something about this week's persistent attempts had left him feeling oddly unsettled. Victoria Matthews stepped into the spotlight with a confidence that seemed forced, her auburn hair catching the stage lights as she guided a small boy beside her. She wore a simple black dress that suggested both elegance and anxiety, while the child, clearly nervous but trying to be brave, clutched a small notebook against his chest. Something about the woman's posture, the way she held her head, triggered a memory so distant Simon couldn't quite grasp it. "Good evening," Amanda Holden called out warmly. "What are your names?" "I'm Victoria Matthews," she replied, her voice steady despite what Simon could now see was tremendous underlying tension. "And this is my son, Oliver." "How old are you, Oliver?" David Williams asked gently, kneeling down to the boy's level from the judge's table. "I'm 8 years old," Oliver said, his voice small but clear. "I'm here to sing for my dad." Simon felt a strange chill. Something about the child's eyes, his facial structure, even the way he stood, seemed oddly familiar. But it was Victoria who held Simon's attention now, because as she smiled at her son, Simon finally recognized her. Victoria Patterson. The name hit him like a physical blow. Not Matthews, Patterson, his former fiancée from 12 years ago. The woman he'd been engaged to for 8 months before their relationship had imploded in a spectacular argument about family, children, and priorities. The woman who had disappeared from his life completely after throwing his engagement ring at him and walking out of his Malibu home, screaming that he would never understand what really mattered. "Victoria," Simon said, his voice barely audible through his wireless microphone. She looked directly at him for the first time, and her smile was sad, knowing, and tinged with something that looked like an apology. "Hello, Simon," she said simply. The other judges looked confused, sensing undercurrents they didn't understand. The audience murmured with interest, recognizing that something significant was happening beyond the usual audition format. "You two know each other?" Alicia Dixon asked, looking between Simon and Victoria with growing curiosity. "We used to," Victoria replied, never taking her eyes off Simon. "A long time ago." Simon stood up from his chair, his mind racing through calculations and memories. 12 years ago, 8-year-old child, the timing that made his blood run cold. "Oliver," Simon said, his voice rough with an emotion he couldn't name, "can you tell me when your birthday is?" The boy looked up at his mother, who nodded encouragingly. "March 15th, Oliver said proudly. "I just turned 8 3 months ago." Simon's face went completely white. March 15th. He knew that date, not because it was Oliver's birthday, but because it was exactly 9 months after the last time he'd seen Victoria. The night they'd fought about having children, the night she'd told him she wanted a family, and he'd said he wasn't ready, the night she'd left him forever. "Victoria," Simon said, walking around the judge's table with unsteady steps, "we need to talk, privately." "No," Victoria said firmly. "We tried private conversations 12 years ago. They didn't work. Oliver deserves to know who his father is, and you deserve to meet your son." The Palladium erupted in gasps and shocked murmurs. The words "your son" echoed through the venue like a bomb going off. The cameras captured every second of Simon's face as the truth hit him, the disbelief, the shock, the dawning recognition of features he should have noticed immediately. "That's impossible," Simon whispered, but even as he said it, he was looking at Oliver with new eyes. The dark hair that matched his own, the intelligent eyes, the way the boy held himself with a confidence that seemed beyond his years, the same stubborn set to his jaw that Simon saw in the mirror every morning. "Is it?" Victoria asked. "Do the math, Simon." "March 15th, 2016. Simon staggered slightly, reaching out to steady himself against the stage. "But you said, after that fight, you said you never wanted to see me again." "I didn't," Victoria replied, tears beginning to form in her eyes. "But 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. I tried to tell you, Simon. I called. I sent messages through your office. I even came to your house, but your security team thought I was just another ex-girlfriend trying to cause problems." The venue was completely silent now. Even the production crew had stopped their usual bustling to watch this family drama unfold in real time. "So you kept him from me for 8 years?" Simon asked, his voice cracking with a mixture of anger and heartbreak. "I kept him from rejection," Victoria shot back. "You made it very clear that night that you didn't want children. You said they would ruin your career, your freedom, your perfectly organized life. I wasn't going to let my son grow up feeling like a burden." Oliver, who had been listening to this exchange with the wide-eyed attention of a child trying to understand adult emotions, suddenly spoke up. "Mummy," he said, tugging on Victoria's dress, "is that man really my daddy?" The question hung in the air like a prayer. Victoria knelt down beside her son, her hands shaking as she smoothed his hair. "Yes, sweetheart," she whispered. "That's your daddy." Oliver looked at Simon with unguarded curiosity. "Why doesn't he live with us?" It was the question that broke Simon completely. He walked to the edge of the stage and knelt down, bringing himself to Oliver's eye level. "Because," Simon said, his voice thick with emotion, "I made a very big mistake 8 years ago. I was scared of being a daddy, so I said things that hurt your mummy's feelings. She left because she thought I didn't want you, but she was wrong. I just didn't know how much I needed you." Oliver considered this with the serious expression of a child processing complex information. "Do you want to be my daddy now?" Simon's composure shattered. Tears streamed down his face as he looked at this little boy, his little boy who was offering him a second chance he didn't deserve. "More than anything in the world," Simon replied. "Okay," Oliver said simply, as if the matter was now settled. "Can I sing my song now? It's for you." Simon nodded, unable to speak. He remained kneeling at the edge of the stage as Oliver opened his notebook and found the page he was looking for. "I wrote this song myself," Oliver announced to the venue. "It's called Daddy, Where Are You?" Mummy helped me with some of the words, but mostly I wrote it. The music began, a simple piano arrangement that Victoria must have prepared ahead of time, and when Oliver began to sing, his voice was pure and heartbreaking, carrying lyrics that cut straight through every defense Simon had ever built around his heart. "Daddy, where are you? I look for you each day. Mummy says you're busy, but I wish you'd come and play. I drew you lots of pictures. They're hanging by my bed. I talk to you each night before I rest my sleepy head." By the second verse, there wasn't a dry eye in the venue. Amanda was sobbing openly. David had his hand over his heart. Alessia was recording everything on her phone, capturing a moment that transcended entertainment and became something sacred. "Maybe you don't know me. Maybe you can't see how much I want to hug you, how much you mean to me. But if you're somewhere listening, I want you to know that I'm your little boy and I love you so." When Oliver finished, the silence lasted nearly 30 seconds. Then Simon did something unprecedented. He climbed onto the stage and pulled his son into his arms for the first time. "I'm sorry," Simon whispered into Oliver's ear. "I'm so sorry I wasn't there. But I'm here now, and I'm never going away again." Oliver pulled back to look at Simon's face. "Are you crying because you're sad, or because you're happy?" "Both," Simon admitted. "I'm sad that I missed so many years with you, but I'm happy because now I get to be your daddy for the rest of your life." The Palladium exploded in applause, not polite television applause, but the emotional response of 3,000 people witnessing a family being reunited. Victoria had joined them on stage now, and for the first time in 12 years, she let Simon put his arms around both of them. "Why didn't you tell me sooner?" Simon asked Victoria quietly. "Because I was scared," she admitted. "Scared that you'd try to take him away from me. Scared that you'd reject him the way you rejected the idea of having children. Scared that he'd get hurt. And now?" Victoria looked at Oliver, who was chattering excitedly to the other judges about his song. "Now I see that he needs his father more than I need to protect myself from being hurt again." The episode ended there, but the real story was just beginning. DNA tests confirmed what everyone already knew. Oliver Matthews was indeed Simon Cowell's biological son. The legal complexities took months to sort out, involving custody agreements, child support that was 12 years overdue, and a media storm that threatened to overshadow everything. But more importantly, Simon had to learn how to be a father to an 8-year-old boy who had lived his entire life without him. Oliver was curious, intelligent, and surprisingly forgiving for someone so young. He wanted to know everything about Simon's work, his life, his other family members. He wanted to meet his half-brother Eric, spend time at Simon's houses, and understand why his daddy was famous. Simon, in turn, had to confront the man he'd been 12 years earlier, someone so focused on career success that he'd driven away the woman he loved rather than risk the vulnerability of parenthood. He had to apologize not just to Oliver, but to Victoria. for years of missed birthdays, school plays, bedtime stories, and all the small moments that make up a childhood. 18 months later, Simon and Victoria weren't romantic partners anymore. Too much had happened for them to go back to what they'd been, but they had become something perhaps more valuable, co-parents united in their love for their son. Oliver split his time between both homes, and slowly, carefully, they built the family they should have had years earlier. Oliver never did get a formal score from the BGT judges that night. His audition had become something far more important than a talent competition. But Simon kept the notebook with Oliver's song lyrics, and every night when he tucked his son into bed, he remembered that sometimes the most important performances happen when we stop pretending to be strong and admit that we need the people we love. The song "Daddy, Where Are You?" was never recorded commercially, but it became the most powerful piece of music Simon had ever heard, not because of its technical merit, but because it was sung by his son, for him at the moment when his life finally became complete.